Update on the drought and if weekend rain could provide relief.
And the drought continues to affect one of the most important water resources in the U.S. How farmers are coping with the ongoing dry weather.
Plus, I talked with a special guest about the wild weather we know all too well in the Deep South.
WBRC Fox 6 News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
And thank you for staying with us for Weather Extra. Meteorologist Lauren Linehan joining us again. And Lauren, hopefully not too wild this weekend on the weather, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Which we certainly get severe weather around here in Alabama, but we're hoping this weekend. It doesn't look like a surefire setup for problems, but you still want to make sure you're staying alert with that low end threat.
You know, I always use this example, Lauren. You know, you think about there was a time we had a marginal risk and we had one storm, we had one tornado, and that's the kind of setup that we've got to watch out for. It's going to be a low end threat, and most areas will be fine out of this setup, but we do need to be alert for the threat of an isolated strong to severe storm for this weekend. Let me show you the next big thing. It's on the way. I was just checking. Look at this cold front. This is blasting across the country. There are high wind warnings across parts of the country. There's an airfield, Pfeiffer airfield out in Wyoming just reported a wind gust almost 50 miles per hour. Yeah, folks dealing with some gusty winds, but this is going to blast in here over the weekend. It makes its way to the south, and what happens here, as you can see, our map shows a little bit of a shower activity trying to break out ahead of this. That's why tomorrow night we did introduce a 20% chance for a shower. We might get a little bit of wet weather, but the main show is going to happen late on Saturday, and that's where you see there's a risk for severe weather from the Storm Prediction Center. Now, this is a level 1 out of 5. This is a marginal risk, but it's there, and that means we could get one or two storms. There's a lot of wind energy with this system as it moves through. We have that classic line configuration with rain and storms, and as that arrives, it can't rule out an isolated tornado. It's that season, it's that time of the year, so certainly make sure you have our First Alert weather app just in case we get that one rogue storm that does go severe there late on Saturday. The good news is, hey, heavy rain for parts of the area, right? We could certainly use that, but giving you the first alert for that next big thing. A few showers possible tomorrow night during the day Saturday, but most areas there's going to be some decent weather Saturday. It's just going to be very windy during the day, and then that chance for storms increases. You can see the main lines after 9 o'clock. Some of those storms, especially west, may be severe, so we will need to stay alert for that setup. This is what some of the data is telling us here. You can see the high resolution models showing maybe a couple of scattered showers developing. You see that out ahead of the line as that south flow picks up, but this is what we'll have to watch just in case we get a couple of Boeing segments in here, some areas with some enhanced wind speeds as that arrives, but it's still late Saturday night. The models have really locked on this, Lauren, and it looks like it's going to be moving out early on Sunday, and we'll talk about that coming up in the 7-day forecast.
And hey, check out this video sent in by our own Jillian Brooks. Jillian right now is up in New Jersey, and she is doing her own weather reporting up there. Snow flurries fell up in the Garden State ahead of a dynamic system that will bring more snow to parts of the Northeast this weekend. And it just looks beautiful up there. Granted, I don't think their snow was as impressive as what has been going on in the Pacific Northwest today. But as I was talking with our weather producer, Kimberlyn, even a flurry, we start freaking out around here. So we love to see that. But where they are getting more significant snow today has been up in the Pacific Northwest. And this is what meteorologist JP Dice was talking about yesterday. An atmospheric river has set up, and folks across the West Coast have to deal with this a lot. For us here along the Gulf Coast, it's not an issue for us, but out west you can get an atmospheric river set up, just this conveyor belt of moisture that comes off the Pacific Ocean higher up in the atmosphere. And so you get this onshore flow of moisture, and that can lead to high rain and snowfall totals. And if the air is cold enough, of course, it can fall as snow. So you can see up into parts of just to the west of the Great Lakes and to the northern Great Plains, you see this area of low pressure that as it pushes eastward and makes its way down farther from Canada into the northern U.S., it could potentially spit out 4 to 6 inches of snow. That is the same system that is going to be coming towards us. So you can see that system develop developing off to our northwest. There's a trough of low pressure, and so that trough of low pressure continues to dig farther down south. And as we see that, this dynamic system brings some snow into the upper Midwest, but you'll notice down farther to the southeast, ahead of that trough, we begin to see some rain and storms developing here. So we're actually going to see temperatures going up. It's been pretty chilly the past couple of days, but that trough will eventually bring another round of cold air. Prior to it getting here, though, we're going to see a surge of warmer air. And then here we are on Saturday. That trough begins to dig down. When you see a trough in the atmosphere, that means some cold air is going to be scooting its way down south from Canada. So by the time we get into Sunday afternoon, it's going to be a lot colder. So just a very brief warm up ahead of this storm system. But hey, you know, we really need the rain associated with this storm system. And we're not the only ones dealing with extreme drought here in central Alabama. Water levels in the Mississippi River are still relatively low thanks to a dry and warm fall. And this is bringing problems to farmers who rely on the river to get their crops ready for market. So Fox News multimedia reporter Kennedy Hayes has the details on a potential solution.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers tells me that they have been working 24/7, dredging this river to try to get water levels back to normal, but water levels remain low. And farmers say they are concerned they aren't seeing improvement, especially heading into January, a big grain delivery month. This is the dredge potter. It's like a big vacuum cleaner that goes down the riverbed, sucks up sediment, and then discharges it outside the navigation channel.
So all that sediment's getting discharged up the bank instead of one solid pile out here.
Around 60% of America's grain exports travel down the river to the Gulf Coast, according to the USDA. But these days, grain workers say barges can only hold half as much as they used to.
And normally a max draft, if the river was even a bit higher, we'd be able to put, 80 trucks or 80,000 bushels onto a barge.
That's a problem for farmers who produce grain for export. Rich Gieber's farm is about 50 miles south of St. Louis.
If we cannot deliver the grain, we don't get paid or don't, paid for the bushels because we can't deliver, and therefore we can't pay down our operating notes and other commitments that we've made.
The Army Corps says the ideal river level is 15 feet on their St. Louis gauge, and some areas of the river have been hovering well below in the last few months. So the dredging work continues.
Better or worse, we are in this to win it. So as long as we're able to dredge and support traffic on the Mississippi River, we're going to stay out here 24/7 and do it.
According to the National Weather Service, drought causing the low water in this area is expected to continue into next year. Farmers tell me that they're hoping for some rain, not only for the Mississippi River, but for their crops too. In Rockwood, Illinois, Kennedy Hayes, Fox News.
And in 30 seconds, we'll chat with one of our neighbors across the state line about severe weather trends in the southeast. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Weather Extra. I'm Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt. Today I spoke with an old friend who works at the National Weather Service in Jackson, Mississippi. I just can't tell you how proud I am of this guy. He was an intern of mine a long time ago, back when I worked at the University of Alabama, and he's now the warning coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service office in Jackson, Mississippi. Of course, that area is no stranger to tornadoes. Joining us now is Michael Hill, the warning coordination meteorologist with the National Weather Service. So you're back here, you're in Jackson, Mississippi, you're the warning coordination meteorologist, and I just want to say kudos to you, because that is one of the most critical jobs out there, is analyzing the radar, knowing when to issue those warnings. But you, being from Tuscaloosa, being from Alabama, just tell us a little bit about the similarities or some of the things in Mississippi that may surprise you as far as differences in the weather compared to what we experience in Alabama.
Well, it's really similar. To be honest, I always say that, down here in the South, we get tornadoes and severe weather year round. It's not necessarily seasons anymore. We get them all the time. So it's really the same thing for Alabama versus Mississippi. But the biggest thing that's different a little bit here is the Delta region of Mississippi and the water in the Mississippi River. So a lot of flooding and hydrology that can have cause issues with commerce and the infrastructure of the United States with the big river, Mississippi River. So some of the hydrology is a little bit different, but mainly everything else is roughly the same to me. Being a Tuscaloosa boy, it's the same thing in Tuscaloosa as it is in Jackson, as it is in Columbus and Starkville.
Yeah, we've spent many, and I always say we spent many a nights in the closet with a Bearcat scanner, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, listen. In Mississippi, I know there was a study from Mississippi State where they looked back at the number of tornadoes that had happened between Jackson and Birmingham, and I always found it fascinating that there were some counties in Mississippi, it seemed like almost every year, not just every other year, it was like every year there was either, whether it was a EF0 or EF1 tornado. It really is incredible when you go back and you look at the data going back to 1950, the number of tornadoes that happened between Jackson and Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. Again, I just had a storm spotter training in Meridian 2 nights ago, and we were pulling up some of the day, and I just said, "Hey man, we get it all the time. It's for whatever reason it happens in the sweet spot between, like you said, Jackson and Birmingham. There's like little corridors. It's just crazy. It's just how it happens. And again, I always tell people you just got to prepare for the worst and be ready, because we get it all the time down here in Dixie Alley. So. We get it all the time, so just be ready whenever your number gets called.
And we'll talk again with Michael tomorrow and continue our conversation. Of course, this weekend, you can see what we're going to be watching, another line of rain and storms. Hopefully no severe weather. Of course, we need the rainfall, but I'm going to break down the possibilities of storms and time all that out for you as we continue right here. Plus, Lauren will be taking you beyond the 7-day forecast. Stay with us. You're watching WBRC First Alert Weather Extra. Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt. Well, it is Thursday, and you know what that means. We get the updated drought monitor. Let's check in now with meteorologist Matt Daniel for an update on the drought.
Well, we're talking about the drought, and we're talking about how much rain we've seen, and not a lot so far this month. Of course, it's still early, and we are expecting more rain as we go into this weekend, but on average, we'll pick up about 4.5 to almost 5 inches of rainfall in December. And as you can see in the numbers below each city, we've only picked up less than 0.3 of an inch in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and Anniston. But what about the year? Well, for Birmingham, we have recorded over 44 inches of rainfall, and on average for this time of year, we should have over 52 inches. So we have a deficit for the year of over 8. So definitely need some rain just to help us out. And then for Tuscaloosa, we've picked up 44 inches of rain for 2023. And on average for this time of the year, we should be up to 49. And we've got over 5 inches of rain as a deficit. And for Anniston, we've got a yearly deficit of 4.5. And have only picked up almost 44 inches of rainfall. So where's the drought monitor? We got the newest update, and here we go. Obviously still very dry across the southeast. You can see some major improvements across central Georgia. Florida's looking pretty good. In southern parts of Alabama, although in a moderate drought, seeing some major improvements. But as we zoom on in, you can see some improvements up towards the north. We were in that extreme drought in red for Huntsville. Now it's in that severe category. So we still need the rain, and I still think we're going to see some improvement, and the state is improving. In fact, last week in red, about 33% of the state was under an extreme drought, and today we're only looking at 26%. And then last week we had about 56% of the state in a severe drought, and that has been lowered to 47%. So we are seeing some improvements, especially from Marion, Winston, all the way up towards far northeast Alabama. So of course, rain is likely this weekend, and you can track that rain on your WBRC First Alert weather app. Just make sure you know what you're looking at, because when you open up the radar on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you can track what's happening right now with radar, but there's also an option called future, and if you click on that, it will show you the future radar where the rain could go over the next several hours. So that can really help you out to plan your day. And of course, we will be here on your side tracking any of those active storms that move through the area, not only on TV, but of course online and through the app.
And you know, one thing we love on that weather app, you can send in those weather photos. Here's one from Brandon Still, one of our First Alert weather watchers. But did you notice that glow this evening with those high clouds moving in? Yeah, very nice view this evening. And some photos had a nice little pink shading to the air. This morning when we started off the day, I just want to show you some of the forecasts, reported lows. We forecasted below freezing temperatures, and we got there. You can see Oatman 29, Lamar County, Tony McDonald checking in earlier today. Ronald Hughes, our First Alert weather watcher, a low temperature of 32 degrees there early in the day. And by the way, if you want to be a First Alert weather watcher, you can always sign up at our website there at WBRC.com. All right, our Friday forecast starting off in the morning, mid to upper 30s. The rest of the day, a mostly cloudy sky, high temperatures there reaching into the 60s. No rain during the day, but we could see a few showers as we go into the evening hours. And for tomorrow, that wind speed picking up out of the south at about 5 to 10 miles per hour, some higher gusts there during the afternoon, but the winds will really ramp up on Saturday. That's when we could have some gusts over 20 miles per hour. So tonight we're actually breaking out. This is called the GRAPH model, the Global High Resolution Atmospheric Forecasting System. Yeah, that's a mouthful, but we have access here in the Weather Center to all the models, and this is the one of choice that I have for this evening, and I think it's got a good handle on the situation as we go into our Friday afternoon, mainly dry. But let's stop it right here. Close to this time tomorrow night, the model showing the possibility of a couple of showers. We could see a few of those isolated showers during the evening, and then as we get into the day on Saturday, you could see maybe a couple of isolated showers. Temperatures there on Saturday in the morning noticeably milder. Look at Tuscaloosa, 61, 63 in Demopolis, and watch these temperatures as we go through the day on Saturday. Yeah, we start to see some mid to upper 60s. Demopolis, they're showing 75 degrees on Saturday. And you know, when you're talking December and you start dealing with temperatures in the 70s, some of that warmer, more unstable air, that's something we do have to watch. And that's during the day, it's going to be windy, but you can see by lunchtime Saturday, we're not seeing a lot of rain. So most of the day, we're in pretty good shape, just windy. But then as we get a little bit closer to that system moving through Saturday night, we could start to see a few more of these isolated showers and storms, possibly developing to the south and moving north. But there's the main line. It moves in around 10 o'clock or after 9 o'clock, basically. And we'll really have to watch this as it moves into West Alabama. There's Coleman, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa. But notice the line as it gets into places like Anniston, Gadsden there. We get into 2 a.m. Doesn't look quite as organized there. So hopefully it will weaken as it moves in. But this is a setup where we got to watch it, especially with some of that instability, some of that wind energy as that moves through a powerful cold front that's going to sweep through Sunday morning. And then that colder air, you see that's going to be wrapping in noticeably cooler on Sunday with that dry air making a return. So for this weekend, isolated risk for damaging winds, isolated tornadoes. Stay alert there Saturday night. It's a low risk, but we do need to make sure we have our First Alert weather app. You can scan the code, get those updates on your mobile device on the WBRC First Alert weather app. 7-day forecast again this weekend, Saturday night, that chance for rain. We go into next week and we got the colder conditions there Monday and Tuesday, overnight lows near 30 degrees. But as we go beyond the 7-day forecast, I know next week, Lauren, it really seems like we're stuck in a weekend pattern right now.
Yeah, which a lot of us have weekend plans, especially in December, right? You got a lot of holiday parties, a lot of holiday traveling. So if we look at that First Alert weather calendar, we are showing that potential for the storm system we're tracking Saturday night into Sunday morning. But we do want to go ahead and give you the First Alert for next weekend. We're talking Saturday, December 16th through possibly even Monday, December 18th. That's when we could be seeing another system coming through. Right now, it doesn't look like a system that would be severe, but this system that's coming in this weekend also didn't look severe a week ago, so that can change. So it's just something we're going to be monitoring. Otherwise, dry and kind of boring for most of next week. So we need the rain. We just don't want it to happen on the weekend, right? But as far as that temperature forecast, it looks like here in central Alabama, temperatures should be running near average, above average temperatures for a good part of the country. But for us, 6 to 10 days from now, temperatures near average. And you can see this time of the year, our high is right in the upper 50s. So as we look ahead to the middle of next week, next weekend, and beyond that to, my goodness, the week before Christmas, it does look like temperatures generally would be with highs in the 50s, December 13th through the 22nd. Now, what about those low temperatures? Well, we are going to have a strong cold front coming through this weekend, and so that should still keep us pretty chilly, fairly seasonable though, with temperatures possibly getting down into the 30s for lows next week. And then still, once we get past next weekend, the possibility of more 30s in the forecast. So pay attention to the forecast. Check in on the First Alert weather app for when you need to be heating those 4 Ps. As far as the rainfall outlook though, we mentioned it's going to be pretty dry next week, except for the possibility of maybe some rain at some point next weekend. But 6 to 10 days from now, that precipitation outlook for here in north and central Alabama looks fairly dry. So let's check the futurecast. This is showing next Friday, possibly a system in the Gulf of Mexico that could keep some rain to our south. But then here's an upper level disturbance that could potentially at some point bring us some showers. The latest model run is showing this system may back up and not get here till next Sunday, Monday time frame. But we'll keep an eye on things behind that. It could get a little bit cooler, otherwise looking fairly dry as we look beyond the 7-day. First Alert Weather Extra. We'll be right back.
Well, our weather watcher Brandon Steele was just sharing some pictures over in Oxford. We had over in Oxford the Christmas parade happening tonight, and it was perfect weather. And I know right here at the Christmas season, a lot of parades happening. We're going to be talking about rain chances, and hopefully tomorrow we will enjoy some, looks like some milder weather finally during the afternoon.
Yeah, we love seeing all those Christmas decorations, but make sure you secure them this weekend.
Yes.
First alert for some storms in the forecast.
See you tonight at 9.